we recognize faces? So this is one topic, one of those topics that like nobody ever, I mean that includes me, and it's a generalization of how I think, ever think about. You know, unless you're studying really that subject or psychology or something like that, you probably don't think about how we on Earth recognize faces. And what is the difference, if there's any difference, between faces and objects. So today we are going briefly to touch on that. Alright, so basically there's this theory that we recognize objects, I mean normal objects, in a certain fashion. And that means that we pick something like an object, let's say a cat, and then we basically, our eyes, what they really see is the contours, and through the light we get the contours of that specific object, and then from that we get the shape. Now we get the shape, we're still biodimensionally speaking, so we get the shape, after which we kind of like start to have geometrical figures that Biederman called geons. But anyway, we have this sort of geometrical figures, so we add the depth, adjust in our head the internal relationship between points, we add depth again, and that is how we mentally reconstruct an image that is very similar, if not identical, to the real world object. Faces are, however, processed differently. Specifically, this one for object is called part-based processing. It's also called feature-based processing or featural processing. And faces are, on the contrary, processed holistically. That means you can not only detect but also process the entire face as one, as a whole, in its entirety. Now, why is this fascinating? Because some people, experts in their field, the first name it comes to mind is Gautier. She found that objects of expertise are also apparently processed like faces. Now, this is disputed, still disputed, because, for instance, faces do activate a certain region which is located at the bottom of the ventral stream, basically here, down there in your brain, that is called a fusiform gyrus, and there's a specific area that takes the name of fusiform face area, FFA. And you know, there are many areas in the brain that do process faces, and a lot of areas that process dynamic expressions, so facial expressions of a face. They're the ones that process, for instance, your body posture, or other stuff, like, you know, there's an area, the anterior cingulate cortex, that process your emotions, or the emotions in somebody's face, and probably also body, because they detect conflict information and then bridge the gap, sending the right signals, you know, signals to the motor system. Anyway, it's extremely complicated, but FFA has been thought of and considered, and this is by mostly Ken Wisher and a bunch of other authors and researchers, has been considered the specialized area for faces. However, Gautier found that certain objects, and there are experiments out there, and the experiments that activate FFA were done with birds, with cars, and other objects of expertise. Because what she really found, let me get to the point, if there's any point, what she really found was that objects of expertise are processed exactly like faces, that is to say, one, holistically, and two, activate this area in the brain. Now, Do we know that this is the full story and that's it? No, we don't. I mean, there are some people out there that do believe that faces are naturally, innately, profoundly different from objects of expertise, no matter how. First of all, because cognitive experiments say that the results for faces are much stronger, and this is like a very important point. And second of all, because you know, sometimes when you do fMRI, what you really see is a specific area, not all the areas, because this research is carried out on what is called ROE, so regions of interests. So you can't see the entire picture. Plus, the resolution of the fMRI, it might impede you to see which specific area among all the nearby areas actually activates or is activated by the so-called objects of expertise. Plus, there's a bunch of other stuff around. For instance, how do we explain neuronally that objects of expertise work differently? Because one hypothesis differently than objects, because one hypothesis is that they might work differently because of attentional effects, right? So attention binds together different features, and that's how you get processed. You as an object of expertise or face get processed faster than natural, normal, regular objects. However, there are people that suffer from, for instance, prosopagnosia, and those people do not recognize faces. However, they can recognize objects like cars or animals or fruits, vegetables, plants, etc. Right? So the prosopagnosia deficit is not a deficit that depends heavily on attention, and that causes and begs the question, are we really talking about two different neural systems? Are we talking about two different things at all? Or are we talking about the same thing, but there's an explanation there? I mean, talking about two different processes, mechanisms, and neural networks is a very much non-parsimonious solution. However, maybe we don't have a better explanation, or maybe it is just how it works, because faces are so important, you know, because through faces you kind of understand whether there's a threat or whether you're about to mate and reproduce yourself and multiply in the world. Anyway, since this conversation or soliloquy is taking a wrong direction, I'm gonna stop there and I'm gonna ask you your opinion. What do you think about this? Okay, do let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this or similar videos, and we're gonna talk next time some more. Bye!